Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 7th ever BTL Exclusive March Madness preview presented by the Book It Sports Podcast Network. If you're not following us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Music, wherever, drop a follow, stay a while, and you can watch the live streams on YouTube as well if you want to see our beautiful faces. You are joined by Krabs talking right now and Jovan Deep, who are both extremely excited for March Madness coming up. Jovan, the brackets just got released. Okay, it's Sunday night. We are stoked. We're about to head out to Vegas here soon in a couple days for the first and second rounds. But we got to talk about some snubs, okay? It can't be all good things. It can't be all winners, bets, all the stuff people want to hear about. We got to talk about the teams who got snubbed. What was the biggest surprise, Jovan, that you've seen so far with these brackets out, fresh off the presses, about an hour away from when they came out? What are we thinking? What are the biggest surprises?
Yes, I think the very obvious, one is St. John's, who I'm not so much surprised that they got snubbed from the tournament because I kind of saw it happening as, the bids were stolen last night with NC State and Oregon, but they weren't even in the first four out, which I thought was a little surprising. Kind of felt like they had their foot in the door for the past, couple weeks. They've been playing really good basketball, making noise in the tournament, and to see they weren't even in, close contention to some of the teams like the Indiana States of the world, that surprised me a little bit to see that.
Did it surprise you to see UVA get in over Indiana State, who had one of the highest net rankings ever, to not get in the tournaments?
No, not so much, because truthfully, I thought it was going to be between UVA and St. John's, like I was talking about for that last spot, and I thought I'd kind of lean St. John's was going to be put in there because of what they've done, the last couple months. They've been more impressive than UVA, but kind of figured, with the way the committee usually works this out, they definitely favor power conference teams, and does hurt Indiana State, one Q1 win. I know they went to a couple of tough non-conference games and fell pretty short, but they did have their opportunity. It's just, I don't know. I wasn't surprised. I still think UVA is better than people give them credit for right now. It's just a tough watch a lot of times because they can't score.
And knowing Tony Bennett and the Cavaliers, they'll probably shock the world and go to the Elite Eight this year when nobody wants to watch them. Our eyeballs, they're going to have to witness this UVA Cavs team for more than one round. I'll tell you right now, they're not dead yet. Just when you think the Cavaliers are done and out of it, they will pull out a nasty, low-scoring win, first team to 100 wins. I can't wait, Jovan. If you can't tell by my sarcasm, I hope they lose by 40 in that first game, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay.
No.
Guys, before we dive in, make sure you guys drop a like and stay a while on our Spotify pages and wherever you get your podcasts. Okay. We're not going anywhere. We're releasing tons of podcasts, throughout the spring and into the summer when baseball starts up. And join our bracket group on ESPN as well. It is free to join. You can win some Prize Picks promo if you come in first. All right. Let's see who knows ball the most. Join our bracket group for free, the Book It Sports group. All right. It takes 3 seconds. We'll put the link in the description. Okay. Jovan, before we dive into these brackets and the breakdowns and the bets and this and that, I think we got to start out with some players to watch. Okay. A lot of the college basketball casuals are hopping back in for March Madness, and that's fine. They got day jobs. They got stuff to do. But we got to let them know some of the kids they're going to know about, in a week or two once we're, smack dab in the middle of March Madness. Who are some names that aren't Zach Edey, right, that the people are going to know about come a week or two?
So, I got to start with McNeese because I think everybody at this stage, they're going to be one of the more popular upset picks, and people are going to act like they know about the team, but they really don't. They just know that they're 30-3, super trendy team. Will Wade, head coach. He has a lot of experience, in these type of moments. So they're going to be trendy for that reason. But as you know, and as a lot of people listening now have been really high on McNeese before they tipped off, out a bit this season. And the one guy who I think is really set up for success in the first round is Shahada Wells, who I'm familiar with, not just because he's at McNeese and I've loved that team all year, but former TCU transfer as well. So I've seen him up close and personal quite a few times. So they're going against the Zags, and he is, damn near, I think, an 18, 19 point per game scorer for McNeese. He's their do-everything guard, really good from three. Just overall takes command of that offense and facing a pretty moose shit Gonzaga perimeter defense. So I think in that matchup, he is going to have plenty of room to do whatever the hell he wants. And if they do pull that upset, that's definitely the guy that's got to go off to do it. So I'm really excited to watch him play. He is one of my favorites for this first round.
Two guys I've got my eyes on that most people wouldn't know. You've got Corey Washington over there at St. Peter's. Yes, guys, the Peacocks are back in action. Not saying they're going to make another crazy elite run, into the Final Four or whatever, but, against a Tennessee team that's lacking the real physicality down low, in my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if the Peacocks hang around a little bit and use some of that physicality. And they've got a kid on that squad, Corey Washington, who he'd be starting on most Power 5 schools. This kid's a beast. He's got plenty of size, talent, great, cool-looking hair. Okay, he's got the swag. He's got the mojo. Don't be shocked if we see Corey Washington drop a 20-piece against that Volunteers defense. And if he's not one of the better players on the courts, one of the other guys that I've had, kind of circled as an X factor potentially down the stretch. Another guy, it's got to be Rain Smith on College of Charleston, Jovan. They're playing Alabama in the first round, who we know cannot guard a parked car. Not saying Alabama can't run up the score. That might even help Rain Smith, who's going to be keeping College of Charleston in this game. One of the better three-point shooters in college basketball. He's dropped a 9-piece this season, 9 threes from behind the arc. Insane. If Alabama leaves him open, I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps the Cougars in that game down the stretch. Talk about a total that's going to be high. They were going to have to square up and take the over on. And Rain Smith's going to be leading the way. If you guys don't know who he is, he's from Tasmania. The kid's electric. You will after that Alabama game. So stay posted. Okay, those are 2 stars that I've got my eyes on for March Madness coming up down the stretch. Okay, W's. Let's talk about some Natty Champ odds, Jovan. Enough about the players. It's not about the players. It's about the teams. Okay, if you guys are watching on YouTube's, you can see the odds up. If you're listening, you got a phone next to you. You can take a peep and see them and check them out yourself. Jovan, were there teams that you were shocked to see, maybe getting a ton of respect or maybe even getting disrespected on the lines, to win the national championship this year?
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see a lot of respect on Auburn's name. They're kind of hanging around at like the 6, 7, depending on where you look, spot odds-wise, which is kind of red on par or even shorter on some sites than North Carolina, which I thought was pretty surprising. So I guess this could go, in both hands here. I thought Auburn was getting a lot of respect in the lines and UNC quite the opposite. So to see them where they are as a 3 seed, knowing all the chaos that's ahead of them in that region, and quite the opposite, I guess you could say, for North Carolina. Not literally, because that region is going to be madness, but it's a lot of teams that you look at on paper and you say, we don't believe in. You have the Michigan States of the world who nobody believes in, playing Mississippi State first round, whoever comes out of that. You got the Alabamas, who a lot of people are down on, and it's pretty short odds. So like somebody's going to make it happen with UNC down there. It's kind of what I get, the feeling that I get looking at the odds, and the opposite for Auburn. I've been high on this Auburn team, all year long. I do think they can make a run in this tournament. So from that angle, not too shocked to see what we're seeing right now, but I think the bracket lines up pretty well for them. But can't say I was expecting, same odds as UNC after their little tourney run in the ACC came up just short.
Maybe it's because they're going to run into some trouble against Izza in March, who we know has caused plenty of upsets, plenty of chaos, I guess you could call it, in March. And this Michigan State team is playing some of their best basketball towards the end of the season. Shocker. That's what Tom Izzo does. All right. That's what the Spartans are doing. And they're getting some line respect as well. I thought they were a little bit short on their odds to win the national championship. I wouldn't be surprised if they knock off UNC, Jovan. I wasn't too impressed with the Tar Heels down the stretch in the ACC tourney. Kind of seemed like they already let out all their energy in the regular season to beat Duke in that regular season finale on their home floor. And it kind of seems like they just kind of, trotted along through the ACC tourney, ended up getting a loss handed to them at the end. I'm out on UNC, and maybe that's why they're getting, some disrespect, and Michigan State's getting some line respect because they're going to face off probably in that second round. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sparty pulls off the upset. All right?
Yeah, kind of with you.
Sure. Any great round 1 games that since the lines have dropped and the brackets dropped not too long ago, you can't stop thinking about, Jovan? There's got to be a couple.
I mean, probably going to have to leave McNeese to the side. I feel like my glaze has gone beyond with that. But I don't know. The more that I look at it, I know you love this game a lot too. Might end up being one of my more favorite round 1 bets. We talk about the Lobos and Clemson. So I think that game is fascinating. And obviously, like you look at the line, and that instantly makes me want to take New Mexico in the first place. But the more I looked at it, like initially my thoughts were, they're favored. That's a little odd. I'm a little worried about how they're going to defend both bigs, though, with PJ Hall and Ian Shefflin. I think they have the bodies for that. And the thing is, like, I don't believe in Clemson's defense enough on the other side. Like, it's going to be Joe Girard and Chase Hunter kind of having to force all of those guards for New Mexico. to do something, like whether that's go to the rim where that's their strong suit, or, make them shoot, which is not exactly where they're best at. But I just don't think their defense, especially like when they put Gerard in every single ball screen action, like he's going to get toasted. That's just simply what it is. Like, I don't believe Clemson's defense is good enough to hold up against those guards, which not that kind of renders the other side of the floor irrelevant, but I think it helps them, because I think if Clemson gets into a game where they have to score with New Mexico, I think they're in real big trouble. So like, that's kind of what I think is going to happen. So seeing them as of right now, minus 1.5, I think that's pretty indicative of what to expect in the game. Clemson kind of reeling right now and kind of want to keep selling. I think this is a team that I haven't really believed in all year. New Mexico is starting to play really, really well. So a rare Mountain West support in the tournament from me.
I've got a couple games catching my eye in the first rounds. We'll start out with Wisconsin and James Madison. Did you see the reaction from the Badgers during the Selection Sunday show when they announced and revealed they were going to be playing JMU, Jovan? They did not look happy.
They were not too thrilled, Krabs.
No, they were not too thrilled. And I would not want to be playing the Dukes either, Jovan. I'll tell you that much. This team is dangerous. Nobody's talked about them for about half the season towards the end. As soon as they, lost their first game, nobody cared about the Dukes. But this team can play, and they've got 3 studs on that squad, led by Fats Edwards, who is one of the better players in this tournament. These guys would be playing and starting on most Power 5 schools. All right, do not sleep on the JMU Dukes. There's a reason why Wisconsin looks so blown to be matched up against them in the first round. It's because that game is going to go down to the wire. Okay, and then let's stay in the South for another game I'm liking: Nebraska and Texas A&M. I'll tell you what, I'll be on the Aggies. All right, have to be down the stretch, and that game is going to go down to the last possession. If there's one game I got circled that's going to be a buzzer beater, overtime, or a one-possession game, it's the Nebraska and Texas A&M contest. I think that one has to go down to the last possession. I would not be surprised if there's a buzzer beater in that one, guys. So circle that puppy on your brackets. That game is going to be madness. Don't miss it.
Yeah, let me add another one for you that we already talked about a little bit before we recorded this. Akron against Creighton. I'm starting to fall in love with Akron, at least and against the spread type play. At the plus 13.5, they're kind of at. That game's catching my eye because my thoughts on Ryan Kalkbrenner. I think people don't talk enough about his defensive fall off, to this year. And part of it's just because he is really good at defending without fouling. But what comes with that is a real lack of aggressiveness. So against a guy like Enrique Freeman, another very slept on, mid-major player that people are going to learn about, I think, in that game, I think that spells trouble. So I think Creighton, they're going to have to shoot the lights out to comfortably, win this game and cover the spread. And I'm not saying that isn't a possibility because they can get hot at any time. And Akron's 3-point defense is not terrific, but I'm definitely leaning on the side that Akron inside is going to get a lot of what they want, probably more than people think. So I would be looking out for a potential upset there. That game, I keep looking at it. Can't look away.
Look, Akron doesn't even belong in the tournament. Right?
No, they don't.
They're barely here. They got lucky with some BS foul in their conference championship that got them here. That is the team I want my coins on in March. A team that's disrespected, a team that's thinking, we shouldn't even be here. That's the squad that comes out hot and typically on top, at least against the spread. I'm so with you. I cannot wait to back the Zips. Okay? Let's talk about some playing games, all right, before we dive into each section of the brackets, the East, West, Midwest, and, of course, the South. We got to take a look at these playing games, Jovan. There's 4 of them. All right. Let's look at Boise State, Colorado. Who do you have winning that contest?
I do like Colorado in that game, which I'm a big Colorado hater, and I don't think they're that good. And this little run that they came on to the end of the season, I think a lot of it was just playing Pac-12 teams that are also not very good. So little fortunate scheduling towards the end here, but they made their run. They're still playing better, I would say. They're getting healthier too. They got Cody Williams back in the Pac-12 tournament, but I think it's a pretty tough matchup for Boise State because one of the things that I kind of like about Colorado in this tournament setting, especially with who they have to face potentially after this game in Florida, they don't just have, Tristan Da Silva on the inside. They have Eddie Lampkin on the inside. They have Cody Williams who can give you size on the wing and kind of play and give support on the inside too. So they're a decently sized team. And while offensively, I'm kind of worried because, there are these games where KJ Simpson just goes out and shoots 5 for 20. And that's a problem with Colorado, why I can't really back them long term. But this matchup with Boise State, kind of neutralizes Omar Stanley a little bit, which is the key, which makes, Matt Rice have to do a lot and be Superman. And again, one of those were like, not to say you can't do it because we've seen it a lot this year specifically, and in years past. He's been there forever. I just don't see it against this Colorado team. They are playing better, getting healthier right now, like I said, but I just struggle to see how Boise State's going to consistently score against them.
What about UVA playing Colorado State? That's the other really good playing game. Who do you think comes out on top there?
That's a toss-up. I'm interested to hear your thoughts as an ACC guy, but, first initial impressions there for me, these are two teams that definitely want to play very, very slow, but you'd think that Colorado State, because they have an ability to play a little faster. I feel like they don't want to get into one of those games with UVA where they're trying to beat them at their own game. So maybe they pick up the pace a little bit. I feel like that's going to be to their detriment really in the end. So I kind of lean UVA there, but it's hard. It's hard to cap that team against a Mountain West opponent.
Yeah, this is going to pain me to say, especially as somebody who bet on them in their recent loss to NC State. But I think UVA wins this game, and I think they might win a couple games in March. All right, there's always one team from the first four that makes a run. Once they get into the first round, second round, whatever, there's always one gosh darn team that ends up being the greatest fucking team on earth. Out of these squads, Jovan, we didn't even talk about Montana State, Grambling, Howard, or Wagner because those teams are 16 seeds and they probably don't have a chance. But out of Boise State, Colorado, UVA, and Colorado State, who's going to be the team this year to make a big-time run? I hate to say it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's UVA.
I wouldn't be surprised either. It's hard to count out Tony Bennett. I'll tell you that. I'm hoping it's UVA, but I will say my gut is certainly telling me it's Colorado, and it sucks because it's not like I really believe in Colorado type thing. I just think they match up really well with Boise State to get into the 7-10 game with Florida. And Florida, as we record this today on Sunday, they played in the SEC championship. They got smoked in the second half. Micah Hand looked in like as soon as the game started, his leg was broken. So, prayers up to him. Hope that situation's getting better. But that is one of the better rebounders in the country on the best rebounding team in the country that is gone. So, that strength of Florida is very much diminished. Now, if you have Tyrese Samuel, who's very aggressive on the defensive end, getting in foul trouble, you're stuck with a very good Alex Condon, but very prone to bigger defenders and a lot of length, like you're going to see from Da Silva, Lampkin, and Cody Williams. So that scares me a little bit because I like Florida in tournament settings because you can really rely on offensive rebounding to give them second chances, even when they're not shooting the ball too well. Little that's gone now. So I'm a little concerned. I love Florida, but I'm a little worried.
Yeah, Jovan, I'd be nervous for Florida too, my man, but we will see how it plays out. All right, let's hop in and talk about some of these bracket divisions, Jovan. We've got the East with UConn as the 1 seeds, Iowa State as the 2 seeds, Illinois coming in at the 3 seeds, and Auburn as the 4 seeds. A lot of really good teams in the East here, Jovan. Are there any matchups or upsets you're seeing in this region that you're liking right off the rip?
What stands out to me is that this is actually the one region where I say I like a majority chalk, which kind of pains me. So in this region, especially Auburn, I think Auburn got a pretty good draw, and not that I don't respect a lot of the teams that they're around, especially Yale, they're going to play first round, but it's Danny Wolf, that offense against a really physical team. I think that works out well for them. I think a San Diego State team who's going to have to be more physical than them, and you're going to see an Auburn team put a lot of ball pressure on San Diego State's guards, which is not a recipe for success. So they're going to have to need Jaden Ledee to bail them out every possession, which is a problem. I think they got, I don't want to say an easy draw because nothing's easy in March, but if you're an Auburn backer, probably everything you could have asked for. But to me, honestly, my favorite game in this whole region is FAU Northwestern, which I think is a good matchup. And I think you have some thoughts on that game too, possibly.
I do. I thought it was some serious respect for that Northwestern squad's being a favorite in this game against the Owls, right, who we knew went on that crazy run last year. I am more than down to fade the Owls right off the rip in this contest with the 9 seed as the favorite in Northwestern, who nobody wants to bet on, but they got Langborg back in their conference tourney. Hopefully that's enough. And we know they have Boo Buie as well. Who the heck's going to want to bet on Northwestern against the Owls, who just went on that crazy run last season? Nobody except for us.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see Boo Booey against that perimeter defense for FAU. I think that's going to be probably a free prize pick square, whatever that opens up at in that game. But yeah, I mean, to see them as a favorite, definitely interesting. I want to keep my eye on Nicholson to see if he's able to play. It's kind of sounds like, the vibe that I'm getting is he is. So that would be a big loss against Big Flat inside if he can't go. But yeah, seeing them as a favorite, definitely weird. Boo Booey, masterclass, probably loading.
Two games I wanted to touch on in this region. Illinois, Morehead States. You've got Illinois coming off of a conference title, feeling great, confidence, playing some of their best basketball of the season down the stretch. Terrence Shannon, absolute beast. Damask carrying as well. This team can score. And they're going to face a Morehead State team. They could keep up with them a little bit. Do not sleep on Morehead State. One of my favorite plays in the first rounds of this March Madness tournament is Morehead State with the points against an Illinois team that just pretty much coasted, to a conference championship. I think if they don't take Morehead State seriously coming in, it could be potential upset watch here. And then another game I'm looking at, Jovan, is BYU and Duquesne. We just saw Duquesne not only just roll through the A-10, beat teams like Dayton, VCU, who was last year's champion, with ease. You know why they did it? It wasn't with guys like, Day Grant and Jimmy Clark scoring 40 points a game. They did it with defense. They played some of the best defense I saw in the last, 3 weeks of the season than any team, really any mid-major in college basketball, to be completely honest with you. They started the season out 0-5 in conference play. People were gassing up this Duquesne team preseason, saying this was the year. And after 5 games, people wrote them off. Well, Duquesne showed back up, okay? And they're here now playing their best basketball of the season. Do not be surprised if they take BYU down to that final whistle, and this game is a one-possession game, or maybe they even carry that momentum from an A-10 championship into an outright win. But those are two dogs, Morehead State and Duquesne, who I can't stop looking at. Besides that, though, I'm with you. Probably a lot of chalk in the East.
Yeah, and I mean, quick aside to Duquesne, I don't know how the hell they're an 11 seed. That made absolutely no sense to me with, JMU, McNeese all sitting on the 12 line. And I've seen a tweet talking about that was just VCU's spot that they just put Duquesne into just out of laziness or whatever it was. And I could honestly say that might be a reality because I don't get any argument of really any of the 12 seats being seated lower than Duquesne. At the same time, though, BYU should not be a 6 seed. So maybe it's like a little give and take on both sides of that matchup. But the seating was baffling to me.
Lazy, complacent. Hate to say it.
Yeah.
Really do. Jovan, who's coming out of the East? Who is the winner of the East region as of right now? Do you have a team you like?
Yeah, I absolutely do. It's the Auburn Tigers. I think they're sitting like plus 500. I think they can make a run as far as you want to take them because I think they're seriously national title contenders. And I've been another team that I was a really big fan of really all season. And the one question was, could they beat teams away from home? And I think with this SEC title run, obviously on a neutral court, kind of answered those concerns for me. So it's a lot of wins to get in a row. Definitely asking for perfection for quite a long time here, but that's a team I don't want to see. And I know UConn's looming. I know Iowa State's looming. Illinois is playing great basketball right now, but give me the Auburn Tigers.
Go Tigers. Different Tigers.
Different
Still
one,
the same shit. Okay. Guys, I think I'm with Jovan on this one. Not going to lie to you. You look at UConn, they won the Natty last year. You know how hard it is to run it back. It almost never happens. Bless their hearts, they're going to try. And this UConn team is stacked once again. But just mathematically, it's almost damn near impossible to run it back and win 2 years in a row. So you can kind of eliminate them already. Then you go to the 2 seed, Iowa State. They just won their conference title, right? So maybe they come in a little fat, happy, and complacent and get knocked off. Or maybe their offense, doesn't put up a great performance like they have in recent weeks. And they can't rely fully on their defense. Who knows? I have a feeling the Cyclones don't end up being in the Final Four. I think they used up all their energy and success in that conference tourney. And you look at the 3 seeds, and you see Illinois. Well, Illinois just won their conference tournament, and I don't think they're going to be coming in, playing their best basketball after that nice win. They're celebrating that still. They could be taking lightly some of these other mid-majors and potentially getting knocked off too. It's got to be Auburn. It has to be. I'm not scared of any of these, higher ranked seeds at all one bit. Give me the Tigers.
Yeah. If you want
plus 500s.
Some potential matchup nuggets too. I just like Auburn is one of the teams that all of their guards are going to make life hell for you. And if I'm looking at really a lot of these teams outside of like UConn at the top there, which I still think that's a tough matchup, don't get me wrong, but like Iowa State, if you put a lot of pressure on their guards, if you get there, that's a tough matchup. Same with Illinois. They're very turnover prone when you do that. BYU, same thing. I'm looking all throughout the East, and I see a lot of backcourts that I certainly don't trust against a really aggressive defense. So like that's another reason why like I think Iowa State could be on a collision course with Auburn there, but Auburn's my team.
All right. We are both liking the Auburn Tigers, Bruce Pearl's boys. All right. Outside the jungle, proving people wrong. They're getting wins on the road. All right. They're going to get it done. Let's come out of the East. Plus 500s. Got to be the Auburn Tigers. Jovan, best bet in the East region, first rounds or future. What are we thinking? What do you like?
I mean, is it cheating to just use Auburn?
No, you can use Auburn if you're that confident.
You could use Auburn. I don't know. What do you got as your favorite?
I got to go with Morehead State plus 13 against Illinois. I think they catch them sleeping, and they might even win that game outright. I'm obsessed with Morehead State in this spot.
Yeah, you could be absolutely onto something with that one.
Yep.
Yeah, let's just go Auburn. There's not a game level bet in this side of the bracket that I'm 100% sold on yet, but I'll just go with Auburn to win the West or win the East. Sorry.
Auburn to win the East, plus 500. Should be a good look. All right, I'm in. Let's move to the West. All right, let's hop across the country here, Jovan. We've got some great teams out here. Not elite teams, in my opinion, but some great teams. You got UNC as the 1 seeds. Not scared of them. Arizona, I think they're a little bit fraudulent as the 2 seeds. You've got Baylor, who's young but very good. They're just unproven and inconsistent at times. And then Alabama as the 4 seed, who nobody wants to touch with a 10-foot pole because of how they finished the season. Jovan, where's your head at right now with the West? I feel like it's absolute chaos.
It's chaos, and this is the region that's giving me the vibe of, a San Diego State level team, from last year coming out of the West and making noise. We mentioned the really weird odds that I think we see with North Carolina. It's not like I couldn't come to that conclusion saying that they're going to get knocked off without looking at the odds, but seeing it only makes me feel that much more confident. And Arizona is the team with a lot of variance. Same thing with Alabama and Baylor. I really like, but I mean, they have some young guards that it's tough to, rely on them for a full tournament run. So like this is an absolute chaos region, absolute hell to bet on unless you're taking a lot of underdogs, which I would recommend here. But it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this region for sure.
You've got 2 Mountain West dark horses in Nevada and New Mexico. I mean, the latter played unbelievable down the stretch and won the Mountain West tournament against, the perennial wagons, San Diego State. Incredible run by the Lobos. Holy smokes, they've got plenty of talent, and they've got a matchup against Clemson in the first round. That's going to be must-see TV. That game's going to be insane. And then you've got Dayton and Nevada as well in this region, Jovan. I mean, absolutely loaded with great first-round games. I touched on it earlier. Alabama and Charleston, I think, will be a little bit closer and extremely high scoring. I think Charleston, honestly, if Rain Smith gets going against that Moose perimeter defense from Bama, I wouldn't be surprised if that game goes down to the last possession as well. You got a really good Grand Canyon team that nobody gives a hoot about playing against a very inconsistent St. Mary squads. You've got Sparty getting some line respect. A lot going on over here, Jovan. Any upsets in the first rounds? Is there one team? Is there one dog that's barking and looking at you funny?
One dog. I mean, it's a tough one because I think there's a couple of short favorites that I like in this region. But I'll say at least ATS, Long Beach State, is looking at me very funny, and it's not like I think they're going to legitimately win this game outright, but they have obviously the insane story. For those who aren't hip with the story, they fired their coach or told their coach he was going to get fired prior to the conference tournament. He ended up leading them to a tournament championship. So absolutely, insane way for that story to end. So this could be his going out party, but they just play hard. I look at a lot of guys, and another one that I didn't mention as far as underrated players that I think we're going to see in the tournament that people are going to get to, Marcus Ahonis. He's a guard who just plays tough basketball. He's one of like the guys in the Big West. You have like a couple very, very big volume guys, guys that you won't see be super efficient, but they're going to be the guy for their team, like Elijah Pepper for UC Davis is another one of those guys. But Sahonis brings like a level of toughness to that team, and he's going to be going against a defense in Arizona that they're not good, but also I think they're just soft, and those guards are, pretty undersized too, a majority of them. So I think he's going to have a pretty good game. I think Long Beach State is going to make life tough for Arizona, and will they really be able to do too much against Arizona defensively? Probably not in reality, but I think they can score with them and make it close. And I think we see that number at around 20 as we stand right now.
Yep. Looking like it's around there.
Sure. Yep. So, I mean, I think they keep within the number there. That's the one that, as far as dogs, can't keep my eye off of in that region for too long. But, we have a couple short favorites that I'm sure we'll talk about in a second that I like a lot more.
Oh, yeah. Well, the dog I'm going to take, look, when Howard, it's not if Howard gets through the playing games. It's when Howard beats Wagner, who's Jovan's school, by the way. So I'm picking my squad, Howard, right down the street in D.C. When Howard gets matched up against UNC, I don't care what the spread is. It doesn't matter. Howard is going to cover that game and make Bacot's life a living hell. This team has Seth Towns, who's been talked about a ton. This kid's like 27 years old. He's played on a million different teams. He's 6'9". He's a stud. He went from Harvard to Ohio State. Now he's at Howard's, right, finishing up his education and still getting some buckets. Kid's dropping 14 points a game. He can play. They got Bryce Harris, who's a legitimate scorer, junior, absolute studs. This team has some size with Odom down in the paint as well. And they've got Dockery who can score. Do not sleep on the Bison. They will cover against UNC. Don't know what the spread is because they still have to get through the playing game. Don't care what the spread's going to be. They will cover. So circle that matchup. All right? W's. I feel like we have to just talk about the two insane matchups in the West, Jovan, and that's Clemson, New Mexico, and Dayton, Nevada. I mean, two teams that I've had circled to make some noise this year in New Mexico and the Lobos and the Wolfpack of Nevada, of course. Do you think both those teams steal wins here against Clemson and Dayton?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a little more convinced on New Mexico. I'll say that. And that's, like I said, it's probably going to end up being one of my favorite bets of the first round. And I think you're probably in a similar boat there. I mean, I just like the matchup. I think they're playing really good ball right now. I'm a big Clemson non-believer. I don't want to say hater because that makes me think or makes it sound like I'm super biased in betting against them. But I just think this team is just not that good. And I love PJ Hall. I love Ian Shefflin. I love the kind of weird dynamic they bring to that team. But against the New Mexico team, who's really going to push the tempo and put a lot of onus on, Joe Girard to guard in the half court, I cannot trust that for a second. So, I mean, that combined with the fact that we see them and they're favored with how we know Mountain West teams have, performed in the tournament in years past, it feels like it's pretty telling there. So New Mexico, I feel like does get it done. And in a region of chaos, I would not be surprised if that's not the only thing they get shaken.
What do we think about Sparty against Mississippi State? 8 versus 9 seeds. Who comes out on top there?
Going back and forth because I have a lot of respect for Izzo, obviously, as I think everybody should. And it seems like every single time he's a lower seed and you have a team that isn't flashy, nobody really believes in, he comes out on top. So, like, for that reason, I definitely will not be fading Sparty. But the one thing that I cannot go back to or cannot get around is I don't know how they're guarding Tolu Smith in that game. I really don't. Because, I mean, from the couple of times that I've watched them recently, in the tournament and the last couple of games of the regular season, they have struggled guarding any bigs, and they've gotten torn apart by them. Malik Hall is a great defender to have at the 4, and you would think that helps a lot more than it does. But, man, Tolu Smith and then Jeffrey's in there, he's going to take up a lot of Malik Hall's energy. I have trouble if they leave Tolu one-on-one, how that's going to end up for them. But, I mean, in the plums, you just always think Izzo's going to make a run. So I have a hard time going against that.
Yeah, I will not be going against that. I'll be leaning into that narrative because when Michigan State is faced off against Howard, the 16th seed who just knocked off UNC in the first rounds, they will have an easy second-round matchup, and they will take care of the Howard Bison. Okay? Guys, do not sleep on Sparty. This was a preseason top 15 ranked team in the country. They still have those same guys. It just took them a little bit while to get going, right? A little bit longer than most. That's what Tom Izzo does. He peaks at the right time, and this team played pretty darn good down the stretch, and I trust Tyson Walker with my coins. I do. All right? W's, Jovan, This region, the West, it's madness. Okay, literally insane. Who the heck knows who's coming out of here? You've got so many freaking mid-majors and underdogs who are favorites and shouldn't be, who are probably going to pull off crazy upsets. What's the deal? Who is winning the West region? Who's coming out on top?
Let me go with Baylor, and I don't love it. And the reason why is, first of all, I think it's going to be madness, so I wouldn't be surprised if a New Mexico team makes a run. I don't love trusting Baylor's guards because it does feel like if you're liking Baylor for a multi-game sample size, you got to have a couple different things. You have to have a big Yves Missi advantage. You have to have a Jalen Bridges, absolute Himothy performance, or you just got to be facing a really bad defense in general. So the reason it's more of a play on everybody else around them than Baylor necessarily, because I do think UNC falls. It's hard to trust Bama if they do make it past Charleston. The biggest challenge, I guess, the biggest pushback for me in my head is New Mexico. I think it's one of those two teams, and if you were to argue for New Mexico coming out, I really wouldn't give you much of an argument because I think the path is open for them. And obviously, Arizona, very talented team at the bottom. With the way that they've played to close out the season in a really weak conference, I think they're just way too variable for me to trust them. So I landed on Baylor because I do think the way that they've defended is something that people don't talk about enough. I think their defense is a little closer to Iowa State than people think. And a lot of that's come because they've played good zone defense against teams that can't shoot, which is going to be a problem. So I think if they pull that out against New Mexico, they're probably going to struggle for a little bit. So that's why I give them the slight edge if that does end up being the round of 32. And from there on, I just like that team a lot. And I hate Arizona. I hate UNC. So landed on that.
All right. Yeah, there's a couple teams in here that have caught my eye. I like Bama. Nobody's talking about them. They ended the season brutally. Not great. They lost all the important games. They have not respected coins, and they've had some terrible performances in sharp spots this season, a.k.a. nobody wants to bet on them at all in this tournament. So I will. I would not be surprised if it's either them or Michigan State, whatever team comes out of that game, ends up winning this entire West Division or this West region. And then another couple squads, obviously New Mexico, like you touched on, but Nevada as well, my darling, the Wolfpack. This is their year. They've got the shooter. They've got the bruising point guard who's almost like a forward with good handles. They've got Nick Davidson, the young stud who can shoot. He's also kind of big. They've got the veteran role players. This Nevada team, they've got the great coach. They're due. Something is up with the Wolfpack, and I won in. They've had some magic around them all season. I hate the fact that San Diego State made a run last year and went to the Natty as a team from the Mountain West. I absolutely despise that. And if that didn't happen, I'd probably have Nevada winning the whole shebang, okay? Because that's how high I am on the squads. When push comes to shove, this Nevada Wolfpack team is different than others. They find ways to win. They do. Previous Nevada teams found ways to lose. This team with Jared Lucas, Blackshear as veterans, Davidson as well down there, a lot of these great role players coming off the bench, they find ways to win. And I like this Nevada team. That would be my value play, but gun to my head, if I needed to pick the winner of the West region, I'm going to go with Bama. Nobody wants them. Nobody's talking about them. I'm going to take a shot at the best offense in Ken Palm history to just outscore everyone that's in their path. That's the team I'm going to take a stab at.
That's huge.
All right?
I wish I could have done that with Florida on the other side. Just rode the wagon, but things have unfortunately changed.
Things have changed. Their best player's legs have exploded. Really hope he recovers. That was a gruesome injury. Gosh, man. You called the Florida breakout. It came. They were rolling down the stretch, and their center's ankle literally explodes, and there's blood everywhere. Yeah. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Can't make it up.
Bone was out. It was Kevin Ware vibes.
The bone was out. The bone was out. Yeah. Prayers up.
Unreal.
You can't make it up. Poor Gators, man. They got so close. All right.
Sucks.
Let's move. Let's groove. Let's talk about our best bets in this West region. Jovan, we talked about who we think is going to win. What is your favorite bet, whether it's a first round, whether it's a future? Don't give a hoot. But what's your favorite bet right now in the West region?
It's got to be New Mexico, ML.
Okay.
Simply has to be. Matchups there, and I'm obsessed with that game.
All right. Keep it simple. I love it. I'm going to go with Sparty on the spread against Mississippi State. They opened up -4. The spread has been bouncing around. all over the place. Who knows where it's going to settle by the time you guys are listening? I don't give a hoot. Them opening up -4 was enough for me. They will find a way to cover the spread wherever it lands. Lay it with Sparty. Izzo gets it done in the first round. Easy. Let's move. Let's groove. Let's talk about the Midwest, Jovan, because there actually are some great teams in this region. All right, you got Purdue as the 1 seed. It seems like the committee tried to make it a little bit easier for Purdue's path. I guess we're going to go through it. All right, let's see if the TCU Horned Frogs have anything to say about it. But you got Purdue as the 1 seed. All right, Tennessee is the 2, who doesn't impress me too much this year. I feel like there's something about that team that's off. You got Creighton at the 3, who I don't even have to explain. We know something's off with them. And then Kansas at the 4, who we saw, their 2 best players were resting or whatever, still healing, recovering from injuries in their conference tourney. But now they're here. They still get some respect. They're a 4 seed. Really weird, Midwest region here with the teams at the top. I don't know who's going to come out. Obviously you want to say Purdue, Zach Edey, legacy season, his last year. The guy was built in a lab to play college basketball. You could just tell he was born to play the sport. He's unbelievable. Is anybody in this region knocking off the Purdue Boilermakers, Jovan?
I think there's definitely a shot, and I kind of disagree after looking at it for a little bit now. I don't think the road's that easy. You look up and down, I do think TCU, gets past Utah State. It's a conversation for another time maybe, but I think TCU, they're going to give them a run, and the problem is they're going to make life tough on all the guards, including Braden Smith, and when you do that, Purdue's offense is not the same. It's just that they're going to have the crutch of going to Zach Edey whenever they want to in that matchup, and he's going to dominate. So, I don't think TCU is going to be an easy out. I don't think a Gonzaga or a McNeese, hopefully a McNeese, would be an easy out. I think Kansas could defend him really well, make life tough on Braden Smith too. I think if you go to the bottom of that bracket too, like Tennessee, I think they match up decently well, and they're going to make life tough. So, I look up and down, and I see maybe – there's not those 2 teams that you think, okay, they're going to stand out and make a run and go and beat Purdue. But up and down, I see a lot of teams that could do it. So I think this is one of the more, there's a lot of parity as far as the big teams in this region. So I think it's going to be a little bit of chaos here too. Maybe not as much as the West, but close.
Hey, don't sleep on that 12 seed to knock off Purdue if they get there.
I would love that to happen. They would kind of get killed though, which sucks because they're very small.
All right. Yeah, maybe no McNeese magic that far, but we can at least expect an upsets.
I just need one game for him, man.
Need one.
One game.
Need one.
And I think this is a beautiful game. We can talk about that right now. McNeese versus Zags. They're +6, +6.5, depending on where you're at right now. I love it. I was praying. The only team that I did not want McNeese to see was South Carolina, because I think they can match their defensive intensity in a slower game. But McNeese is going to slow it down. The Zags don't like that. McNeese is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country against a really bad three-point defense. That's a problem. And the only if, ands, or but is Graham Ike is probably going to do what he wants, but they're also really good at forcing teams into turnovers. They have one of the highest turnover rates in college basketball. So what's going to happen when Ike gets a lot of pressure? He turns the ball over and he's trigger happy, trying to make plays elsewhere. And same with the rest of that Gonzaga team. So I think they match up beautifully. This is possibly the best matchup I could ask for. And I've been riding with McNeese all season, even before they tipped off. And I'm going to keep doing it, even though they're probably going to be one of the more popular upset picks, just because people see that 30-3.
Well, I see Graham Ike, who is a notorious folder, aka a notorious melter. All right, I've watched this guy since his days at Wyoming. He's great. Don't get me wrong. And he plays great in games that don't matter. But when the lights are bright and Graham Ike's got to show up, I've seen it more often than not. Him make some mistakes, him turn the ball over, him go ghost mode, him foul out of a game, him get technicals. Don't be surprised when the lights are the brightest this season against a very scrappy, defensive-minded McNeese team that's very well coached by Will Wade, who's about to get a Power 5 job from any school with an open vacancy that he wants, handpicked after this McNeese season. I wouldn't be shocked if they get in Graham Ike's head a little bit and Gonzaga's best player is completely checked out. And if that's the case, McNeese isn't only going to cover this game, they're going to win this game outright, Jovan, because they are talented. They might be from a crummy mid-major division, but they are talented, man. They are good, right?
Yeah, they have a lot of talent everywhere. And I think the one thing that I always want when I'm betting against the Zags, or at least this has been the case for the last couple of years where he's been there, you need somebody to guard Anton Watson. Because every time you think, okay, they have a guy that can hang in the paint with, Drew Timme, it's been for the last couple of years. And, now it's EK. There's always this X factor on the outside. Well, hey, you want to shut down Timme? We got Anton Watson, who's versatile, and he can go play the other side of the paint, or he can play on the perimeter and back you down from the 3-point line. And you need an athletic four. And guess what? McNeese has that too. Christian Shoemate, Defensive Player of the Year in the conference, and it wasn't really close. He can defend 1 through 5, and he is going to give him hell. He'll give Ben Gregg hell. He'll probably switch in part on Graham Ike at some point. He's a little undersized for that, but he'll still give him hell. So, this is up and down. They're a talented team, whether it's Shoemate, whether it's Antavion Collum, you can shoot the hell out of the ball, whether it's Javon Garcia, or, of course, the main man, Shahada Wells, who is probably going to have 30 points in that game, just like he did when they went to Michigan in Ann Arbor, which is a huge deal for any team in that conference to ever do that. They beat the shit out of him, and he dominated that game. They've shown they can do it on the road too, which is another big part. So beautiful matchup, and got to ride with them. I have no choice, and I don't want it any other way.
Love it. Love the sell job. Jovan, what is your favorite bet right now in this Midwest region right now? Are you liking first round bets? Are you liking a future? Where's your head at?
Well, I'll say this. It's definitely McNeese. Even as public as it is, but second option, like I mentioned a little earlier, I like Akron plus 13-ish, 13.5, depending where you're at. I've already talked about it, so won't rehash it too much, but I'm just a big anti-Ryan Kalkbrenner, supporter on defense, and I just think he's very soft, and Enrique Freeman's going to take advantage of that, so I'm basically betting that Creighton's not going to shoot the lights out enough to destroy Akron in this game.
All right. Little bonus pick from Jovan there. I'm going to go with his Horned Frogs. He might be pretty happy here. Laying 3.5, 4. Depends on where you're looking, right? I love TCU. They opened up -4 as soon as the brackets dropped against a Utah State team that has been respected and gassed up and just honestly bet on way too much this entire year, and I think they're frauds. I'm just going to say it. I'm not impressed by this Utah State team. They might be the 1 seeds, but they are not the best team coming out of their conference, and they are certainly not the hottest team coming out of their conference. They almost lost to freaking Fresno State in the Mountain West tourney. Embarrassing. Okay? Utah State's opening up +4 against the Frogs, who, get in for an at-large, to me is hilarious. And I think your Frogs have a great matchup. I think they dominate, on the interior a little bit against Utah State, but also, maybe even shooting the rock, because Utah State, they can score, but they don't play a lick of defense.
Yeah, what I thought of immediately when I saw Utah State get the draw for the Frogs. I watched Utah State in that San Diego State game where they dominated them for majority of it. The first thing that I saw San Diego State do, they were pushing hard on those guards up on the ball, and they didn't really know what to do. There wasn't really a flow in the offense. Then they would just give the ball to Osabor and try and let him go to work, and it didn't work. It's exactly what TCU is going to do. They're going to make life tough, even with Micah Peavy, he'll be up on the guards. Jameer Nelson will be up on the guards. Avery Anderson, fantastic defender. They're all going to make life hell for those guards. So while Osabor, to be honest, he's probably going to do what he wants. But otherwise, I don't think it's a sustainable offense for Utah State. So them opening 4, 3.5, whatever you want to call it, with how terrible they finished the season, sans the Oklahoma win in the first round of the tournament that they needed against a super banged up Oklahoma team that didn't even make the tournament. They've been terrible. So to see that, it's probably all you need to see.
Beautiful. It's music to my ears. Jovan, we opened up the Midwest region talk by me asking you if anybody was going to beat Purdue. Who is your pick to win the Midwest region as of right now? Are you going with the Purdue wagon, or are you taking a dark horse?
I'm going to go with Purdue, but it's not because I like Purdue. It's just because I genuinely cannot decide who the team is going to be to knock them off, because I think there's so many different options. I would 100% take a Kansas if I knew that Dickinson and McCullough were coming back relatively full strength, but we really don't know that. But I can 100% see them losing, and what would that have to be, the Sweet 16 that in that matchup there? So that would be my second shout of a team coming out of there and beating Purdue if we see them come back and look good for those 2 games that potentially they win to get to that point. But I will take Purdue. Can't say I love that, though.
Yeah, it'd be weird if you did. Purdue, notorious melters, right? They have a great team almost every year, at least since we've been following college basketball, and they've always found a way to blow it. But I'm with you. This season, give me the chalk, give me the Boilermakers. I think they do get to a fucking championship. I wouldn't be surprised if they win one. It's Purdue's year. Zach Edey's playing out of his mind. They've got the role players. They've got 2 stud guards. They've got, the glue guy in Jones. I just really like this Purdue squad. I think they're a little bit different this year. They're not the typical melters that go to Purdue. Don't be surprised if this team, unfortunately for everybody, because there are, the 1 seed and the favorites, wins the whole shebang in a year where there's a lot of really good teams, not a lot of elite teams, only a handful. Purdue's one of them. Wouldn't be shocked if they pull it off. And I think it starts with them winning the Midwest.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised.
I'm so out on Tennessee. I want that on records. Okay, I think UVA ends up beating them. Straight up. I do. I think they stink. I wouldn't be surprised if St. Peter's keeps that game weirdly close as well with how physical they play. Tennessee, not giving me great vibes all season. I think they go down early. The 2 seed doesn't scare me at all. We talked about Gonzaga, the 5 seed. They're about to lose outright to the 12 seed here. You look at the 4 seed, Kansas. Who knows what's good with them, but you can't count Bill Self out, right? So wouldn't be shocked if they end up upsetting Purdue and getting there themselves, right? Nobody wants to back Kansas after the end of the season. They had. And then Creighton. Yeah. Creighton, I mean, your guess is as good as mine with Creighton. They could win the whole thing. They could lose in the first round to Akron outright. Keep them out of my freaking, championships. Weird or weird region, right? That's kind of why I just stick with squaring up and taking Purdue.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll say this because one of the games, probably if you pick out like all the matchups that are on the board for the round of 64, this is one of the games that I probably have the most trouble with because I think it's really a coin flip. South Carolina, Oregon. If one of those teams comes through and makes a run, I would not be shocked, especially if it's South Carolina. And who knows what's going to happen in the Creighton game below. But I think Akron has a fighting chance. But South Carolina is so good defensively that against a team like Creighton or God forbid they see Akron against a team like Tennessee, who they know very well. And, one of the games ended up very different than the other, but it's a team they're familiar with. And there's no home court advantage involved in this one. To get to a point where, they're facing off against a Purdue and, the Elite 8 here, like I would not be shocked in the slightest just because that bottom of this Midwest bracket seems like such a crapshoot.
Very true. All right, let's get out of the Midwest. Purdue's probably going to take the cake there anyways. Let's go to the South region. All right, we've got Houston holding down the 1 seed here in the South. They're playing Longwood in the first round, sure. We've got Marquette as the 2 seeds. Maybe we'll get Tyler Kolek back. Probably going to get Tyler Kolek back. Haven't heard anything yet. We will see. Got Kentucky at the 3 seeds. Maybe it'll be Kentucky's year. We haven't seen them do something in nearly a decade. And then Duke, after losing in their first game of the ACC tournament, is the 4 seed against a Vermont team that has not impressed me too much this year. Again, another weird region where I think a lot of these teams could come out and make some noise. You've got a Houston team, Jovan, who just got blown out by Iowa State in their conference tournament finals. You've got a Marquette team that is always doubted, but it doesn't matter. They always come through for bettors, and they respect coins, and they come through as dogs, and they'll be getting their guy Kolek back, right? Probably, hopefully, maybe. If they do, they'll have a legitimate chance. You've got Kentucky, who is so due, and they can score and keep up with anybody in the country if they can keep that offense up, and the defense is at least average. Who knows what Kentucky can do? And then Duke coming off that loss in their first game of the ACC tourney, I wouldn't be shocked if that young Duke team with Filipowski as the anchor down low and then the one veteran guy, Jeremy Roach, at the points, if they end up doing something in March Madness after they kind of blew it and didn't really give the fans or anybody anything to talk about from them in the ACC tourney. A lot of options in the South, Jovan. Where's your head at? And what are some games that you're catching your eye for that first round?
So let me say this first. I looked up and down this region, and my goal was to see like who's going to take down Houston. And the one problem, I guess one of the couple problems, one of the reasons why this is a really weird region is because there's a lot of injuries involved. Like when you talk about Marquette, there's question marks around Tyler Kolek. When you talk about NC State, their team throughout that ACC tournament run got torn to shreds. Even in the championship game, those guys were running on fumes. Saw they were running with 6 guys for the last couple minutes of the game, and really ended up being 5 because somebody fouled out. I think it was DJ Horn fouled out in the stupid foul. And whole team's hurt. And then for Texas Tech, who is playing them, like Warren Washington, God knows if he's going to end up playing or not in this tournament. He's been rumored to come back for the last 2 weeks. So that's what made it difficult. But I really want to find like a super physical team to beat Houston. And especially like on the bottom side of the bracket, I couldn't find many. I guess your two best arguments are the teams that are up there and would meet them prior to the Sweets or at the Sweet 16 or before that with Texas A&M and Wisconsin. Wisconsin, I still don't think is built enough to do that, but Texas A&M, you could give an argument. And I struggle to find a team that can do that. And when I look at the bottom of that bracket, a lot of those teams, especially with the injuries involved, I just don't think they can hang with Houston. So they're probably my pick to get out of here. So I guess 2 chalk, 1 seeds on the right side of the brackets here. But yeah, it's tough looking up and down there and deciding anything with, I don't know, any sort of confidence because of the injuries. But I don't know, first game matchup that I'm definitely feeling a little confident on because it's one that doesn't involve injuries. And I think you're on the right side with me here too. I like Texas A&M, which I think they're down to +2 as we speak. Yeah, I mean, the one like big matchup advantage that I saw on the side of the bracket was rebounding in this game. And Texas A&M, they are going to grab every shot off the rim against Nebraska because that has been a problem with Nebraska for quite some time, even when they had Derek Walker the past couple of years. Nobody else really joins. So like Texas A&M, I was scared as hell when they went to go play Florida in the, I don't know if that's the 3rd round or 4th round of the SEC tournament, but the semis, last night as we're recording this, because they are one of the teams that can hang with Florida, who's the best rebounding team in the country. So now going up against Nebraska, I don't think they can hang with Texas A&M. So even if the shots aren't necessarily falling because they're a tough team to rely on offense for, I think they're way too physical for Nebraska. So I think that's definitely one of the games that caught my eye the most. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that game, give me the Aggies. Give me Buzz Williams. Give me Tyrese Radford. Inject them into my veins. I am so in. Boots. All right. Wisconsin JMU. What are we thinking about that game? Wisconsin looked like they were about to cry when they saw the JMU guys.
Yeah, they weren't too thrilled. Weren't too thrilled. And I mean, JMU, like I still get that same feeling from the beginning of the season when it just felt like this was a team of destiny. And I don't want to get too trigger happy with 5-12 upsets because I'm really, really rooting for McNeese hard, and you might only get 1 or 2. But yeah, I don't want to go anywhere near fading JMU in this game because Wisconsin is just one of those teams that's really weird. They are getting a little healthier, so like the defense in the backcourt, on paper at least, has gotten better, even though they've played some higher scoring games, namely today in the Big Ten championship against Illinois. So this game is a crapshoot to me. I'd love to take the points with JMU. I just in my plums. You said earlier that everybody kind of forgot about them after they lost a game, in the middle of the conference season or a little early in the season. They're still really good. They're still that team. So I wouldn't be surprised if they remind everybody.
Yeah, JMU, as much as I hate to say it as a Virginia Tech alum, their sports programs are on the rise. Do not sleep on Fats Edwards. Do not sleep on the Dukes. And if they can upset Wisconsin, they'll get a matchup against Duke. They'll be the Dukes versus Duke. And if that's the case, Jovan, do you take Duke or do you take the Dukes? Are you high on the Blue Devils in the postseason? Are you done with them? Where's your head at with them?
I'm really impartial to Duke, honestly. They haven't impressed me. I don't think they've impressed you either. It's just you always know the talent level is going to be there. Kyle Filipowski is a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. I mean, I definitely think they get past Vermont. Like you said earlier, I don't think that team has the juice this year, even though they run through that conference every season. It was a little less impressive this year. So I'm not really sure. I probably would lean Duke over the Dukes. But again, not too much confidence. I don't know if you have thoughts.
Okay. I'm with you. I think Duke might shock some people after an embarrassing performance in the ACC tourney, after an embarrassing performance in their last home game of the season against UNC, where they got blown out on their home floor and let everybody down. You saw Coach Shire walking around, shaking hands, apologizing for that loss. I think the Duke Blue Devils, Kyle Filipowski, Jeremy Roach, and co., they come to play in this tourney. Watch out for them. All right? Hate to say it. As an ACC guy, as a Hokie, Duke would not surprise me one bit if they end up, making a serious run.
Yeah, that could be it. And I do have some news for you that we did just get. Speaking of the Hokies, their NIT draw. They're playing Richmond in the first round.
They're going to fucking lose to an in-state school in the first round of the NIT.
Yeah, they just might.
They're going to lose. Richmond lives for that shit. That's Richmond's Super Bowl.
It literally is.
And they get to go against another in-state school. That is cake, ladies and gents. Richmond might be a mega whale max play in the NIT. We might have to drop a pod, BTL Exclusive, just for the NIT coverage about fading the Hokies because of how much of a joke they are. Unbelievable.
I just got a little notey of some of the matchups, and I just might be getting involved.
No, don't you tell me about a spread coming out, because if you do, this pod's going to be another 2 hours.
All right, I'll look at that on the back end while we kind of move.
Unbelievable. Bringing up the Hokies at this hour. Disrespect. I'm fading your frogs now. I'm flipping.
You don't want to do that because you know you're going to lose coin.
I can. I fucking love the frogs in the first round. God damn it. Oh, all right. Jovan, who is coming out of the South? Is it going to be Houston? Are you not going to be fun and you're going to take another 1 seed here?
Yes. But the only reason why it's not like Purdue is more like a non-belief in the rest of the field and the fact that there wasn't one team that stood out to me. Here, it's just because I need to see a couple games from the bottom of the bracket to see who's healthy and who's not. I genuinely think we didn't talk about some of the games past Duke, but between Texas Tech and NC State, one of those teams going up against Kentucky in the next round, I think is a really interesting matchup, especially if it happens to be Texas Tech, because like Texas Tech, they can play super slow or they can run with nearly anybody. If Warren Washington's on the inside, first of all, that's a big advantage if you have a good big man going against Kentucky really ever, even though they are getting a little healthier. But their guards can score a little bit against a tough perimeter defense or a bad perimeter defense. Like Pop Isaacs can do what he wants. Joe Toussaint can do what he wants, and he's probably going to be seeing a lot of time on Kentucky guards, kind of switching in and out there because he's their one good defender. So, like, if they get past NC State, I would not be shocked to see them beat Kentucky. Same goes for Colorado, unfortunately. As much as I hate that team, I think they're set up well to win in the first 4 and beat Florida. And if they're playing a Marquette team with a banged-up Tyler Kolek, I would not be surprised to see them make a run either because I think they're deeper and another good matchup for them. So I wouldn't be surprised if any of those teams make a run out of the bottom, but I do still think it's Houston coming out here.
I know Juwan Roberts played in that conference championship, but he was banged up. You could tell.
Yeah.
Didn't play great either. I wouldn't be shocked if Duke, it kind of exposes them there in that matchup if they're able to get there. And if Houston's able to get through Buzz Williams and the Aggies, if Filipowski is able to be a mismatch nightmare for Houston, they could win that game outright and shock everybody. I'm telling you right now. I have Duke coming out of here. I got Duke coming out of the South. I like the Blue Devils. All right. Am I a little bit worried about Texas Tech or NC State? Yes, I am. And I'm with you. I think whoever wins that game ends up beating Kentucky, and Calipari is legitimately on the hot seat after that game. You heard it here first. All right. But I'm not going to go with Marquette getting Kolek back. It's probably going to take them a little bit to get their wings back under them. And that's not a team I want my coins on. Houston just got embarrassed, right, in their conference championship. Typically, I'd like to back a team like that. But with Duke, barely even, playing in their conference championship, I wouldn't be shocked if they come out with the talents that we know they have that hangs with any other team in college basketball and shocks the world. Give me the Blue Devils to finally do something without Coach K. All right?
Go.
Awesome. Well, let's talk winners. All right? And ladies and gents, whoever's listening, I am legally obligated to tell you that there might be a change or two once you see the brackets dropped, once this tournament starts up on Wednesday or Thursday, okay? If you see a change that you didn't hear on here, all right, mind your business. There might be a tweak or two. We're still 3.5 days out. So we're only men, okay? We might have to make a change. But as of right now, Jovan, the brackets have been out for 2 hours. No excuses. Who is winning the whole shebang? How am I, 100xing my investment here? How am I paying for my rent for the next 5 years on a national champion winner? They're that easy to hit, right? Who's winning this thing?
The next 5 years is crazy. So I usually make a set rule for myself. I don't take futures on any top 2 seeds because I don't feel like it's really ever worth it unless you're taking it preseason. But the one that I would look at that my eyes would go to anyway is Auburn. We already talked about it. I think they're pretty short and for good reason, and they've started to answer the questions about winning away from home, and they're sitting plus 1,500 again, depending on where you look, which is on par with North Carolina as of right now, and I think that's pretty telling where they are. And I like the path for them too. Realistically, I think they got a pretty good draw, matchup wise, and just overall, there's a lot of teams in that bracket that are in the same boat as them. Like they just went through and won their conference championship or, played in it at the very least. So if they're going up against a bunch of teams who, didn't have that same road, I'd be a little concerned, but they're going to have to go through those teams. So I think they knock off, the defending champs in UConn, and assuming they get there, of course. And I think that team is just tough. It's like Janai Broom in March in the Final Four and eventually in the Natty. It's what I need. She's a goat. It's a dog.
Yes, he is. And Bruce Pearl is due. I like the pick. If you had to pick between one of the 3 favorites, all right, you took a value play. I love the effort. I love the heart. But if you had to take a UConn, a Houston, or a Purdue, which one of those big 3 would you go with?
I'd go with Purdue. Out of the big 3 there, I don't want UConn because I want Auburn, obviously. And then Houston, I trust to a degree. It's hard to rely on that offense for so long. And then Purdue, first of all, free second round win. If it ends up being TCU, they ain't fucking winning. But we have a lot of teams that I like leaning into the redemption story against a lot of these teams. I've done it, I guess, the last couple of years in different sports, whether it's, I don't know, the Chiefs in football, whether it's Michigan in college football, a lot of these. And Purdue kind of had the feeling in the nuts all year. I just don't like going back to it because that team, as you watch them, it's just nothing truly impressive. So I don't know. If I had to go to one of the 3 favorites, I would definitely choose Purdue. Feels like that is, I don't want to say safest because that's a little misleading, but a lot less variance in some of those games that they have to get there.
Yeah, and I like their path as well. I'd say Purdue, then Houston, and then UConn. It's almost impossible to run it back. I will be insanely impressed, and I will eat my words if the Huskies win it 2 years in a row. They're stacked, but I can almost just rule them out. Never happens. Yep. All right. Yep. I'm with you. I would take Purdue. My value play. All right. It's my WCLV play that I'm going to go with here. You took a nice little Auburn pick. I like it. All right. I do think they'll make a nice little run here. I'll probably sprinkle on that myself. But what man would I be if I just gassed up the Duke Blue Devils and didn't put my money where my mouth is? What kind of man would I be?
Krabs.
They're getting some line respect too. I know it. You know it. They're one of the shorter odds, plus 2,500, somewhere around there. Okay, we'll check the Carfax. But the Duke Blue Devils, I'm telling you guys, you got Coach Shire, who's got a tourney under his belt. You've got coming off an ACC where they let everybody down and they flopped in their first game. That UNC game, last regular season one on their home floor, embarrassing. Nobody wants this team. Nobody wants Phil Pasky. He's about to go to the NBA next year. This team has plenty of talent. They've got young scorers coming off the bench, a plethora of them. They've got the big men in Phil Pasky and Williams down there. This team has it all. They got Roach, the veteran presence, the point guards. They've got McCain, who's legitimately one of the better freshmen in the ACC, if not the best freshman in the ACC. This team's stacked, and they're playing bad recently. I'm buying stock low, and I think their odds are a little bit short. They're getting some respect. Give me Duke. All right? Another value play, bonus pick, Alabama. Do not be shocked if the Tide, and I'm not talking about football. All right? I'm talking March Madness here, folks. Would not be shocked if the Tide finally win some games that matter for once. People forget that they had the greatest offense this season in college basketball history in the Ken Palm era. And if that team can just rip off a couple and stay hot and go streaking, like a lot of the teams that end up going to a national championship or a Final Four out of nowhere do, that's the team I want my coins on, and you could get them at a very juicy price. So there's a value pick, all right? Alabama, I like Duke as well, and then Purdue and Jovan, you like Purdue and you like Auburn. Those are some pretty good picks.
Could be
the difference, all right? And take everything we said, crumble it up, throw it out because it's March Madness, and who the fuck knows what's going to happen, because that's why we love it. All right, it's absolute chaos. Okay, guys, do not blow your bankroll on March Madness. These lines are sharp as heck. Okay, the odds makers, they got their 18. on these puppies. All right. So tread lightly and use bankroll management. Don't blow all your, coins on one play that you think is a lock. Even though TCU opened up -4, even they're not a lock. They might be close, but there's no such thing as a lock. Okay. So tread lightly, be careful out there. Cut the units down. If you want to spray the board, it's March Madness. Celebrate, enjoy in the betting festivities. This is the greatest time on earth to bet. All right. We are blessed with a glorious March Madness tournament bracket. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this March Madness preview for the upcoming tournaments. We will be at the Fontainebleau in Las Vegas for the first and second rounds. Jovan, how stoked are you to hit the tables and hit the watch parties out there in Vegas?
So excited. So excited.
Oh,
Been getting rumors spread that place is super nice, and they're going to have a great setup for the weekend. So I'm pumped. I need a really good setting when McNeese, shocks the world.
Sure. Stoked. Anybody out in Vegas, join us at the Fontainebleau. All right, we'll be there Thursday through Saturday at the minimum for the watch parties. I think they call it Blue Buckets, something like that. Do a Google, all my listeners out there going to Vegas for the first and second rounds, and meet up with us out there, okay? Make sure you guys follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitch, and we have BTL Live every single weekday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking plenty of March Madness winners throughout this week before we go to Vegas, Jovan. So make sure the people hop in the YouTubes, hop in the Twitch, 12:30 p.m. Eastern every single day at the Book It Sports channel. We're talking winners left and right, okay? Guys, join our bracket group. It's free, and you can win some Prize Picks coins. All right, if you end up on top, we will put the link in the description. It takes 3 seconds. All right, Jovan, I'm hyped. The brackets have been out for 2 hours. I'm about to go make 100 of them, all right, and see if I could come up with the perfect brackets. I might do it this year. All right, I might be the first one to ever do it. People are talking. I'm going to try. If I fill out 1,000 of them, I'll have a chance. All right?
Yeah, you would think.
You would think. The crazy part is you wouldn't. All right? Because it's March Madness. This is madness for a reason. All right? And I'm fucking excited to head out there to Vegas and watch these 2 first rounds. All right, guys? I hope you guys enjoyed the pods. We will have plenty more to come. All right? Follow us on the Book It Sports Podcast Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, because we're not going away. We're just getting started. All right, ladies and gents. Jovan, I'll meet you in Vegas, my man. Let's cash. All right? Let's see if the Auburn Tigers can show some hearts. Let's see if your Horned Frogs can get out of the first rounds. All right, any final comments?
I mean, I hope they can get out of the first round because they got blessed. I was kind of thinking they were going to be in Dayton for a while, so I'm glad they somehow escaped out of that. But yeah, I think they're set up pretty well. I think this tournament, it's another one where everybody's starting to doubt the Big 12 a little bit because, they manipulated the net. We're starting to see some teams like Oklahoma fall off, and there's going to be that one team from the Big 12 that just pops up out of nowhere and makes a little bit of a run. It ain't going to be TCU. They're one and done, but I wouldn't be shocked. So you're going to see the Big 12 very soon, and hopefully you're going to see McNeese. That's really all I want. All I want from this entire March Madness. I could lose so much coin. I just want a McNeese win. I want a TCU win, just one against Utah State, and I will die happy.
All right. W's, Jovan. All right. Be happy. Be thankful that your college is in this tournament. All right. Some of ours aren't. Some of ours are heading to the NIT. All right. Be thankful. All of our listeners, be happy. Be thankful if your school is in the tourney, because when they're not, it blows. I'm going to be sitting there. I don't even know what I'm going to be doing. I'm blown. I'll probably just be hitting bets because my Hokies won't be there, but that's okay. We got plenty of bets to hit, Jovan. Let's hit Vegas in style. All right. And let's absolutely kill this March Madness bracket. All right, guys.
Let's do it.
We'll catch you. Join us on BTL Live every day, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. All right. We got plenty of winners to talk about before we hit Vegas. We'll catch you guys. Peace.